This is an iHeart podcast.
Military life isn't predictable, but earning your master's degree can be. With American Military University's 40-plus flexible online master's programs, you can stay mission ready while you get market ready. Learn anywhere, anytime with an education built to keep pace, steady, reliable, and always accessible. Plus, military service members, veterans, and their families can save up to 45% on master's tuition with AMU's special rates and grants. Learn more at amu.apus.edu. AMU, steady through every mission.
Hi, this is Gronk from Dudes on Dudes. I'm here to tell you about protecting your end zone with wet, extra large flushable Dude wipes. Unlike dry wiping with toilet paper, Dude wipes clear instead of smear. Wetter cleans better. Goodbye, dingleberries. Goodbye, itch and irritation. Plus, if you take Gronk-sized grumpies, or as I like to call them, Gronkies, baby wipes won't do. You need extra big Dude wipes to handle the job. So don't fumble the ball with toilet paper. Stop being an a-hole to your b-hole and start using Dude wipes. Available on Amazon and major retailers nationwide. Dude wipes. Best clean, pants down.
You're about to listen to the Late Round Fantasy Football Show, which originally aired yesterday on YouTube. If you'd like to catch it live, you can find it on the Late Round Fantasy Football YouTube channel at 1 p.m. Eastern every Friday during this 2025 season. That's on youtube.com/@LateRoundFF. So without further ado, here's this week's episode.
Welcome in. It's the Week 12 Late Round Fantasy Football Show. David Kitchen here alongside JJ. JJ, how's it going, pal?
I'm good. I like that I'm just JJ. No, there's no last name.
It's Week 12. So it's Week 12. Shouldn't people?
I mean, they should hypothetically now. Yes, because
it's Week 12. I'm with JJ Zacharyson at Late Round QB on the socials.
We did have Brian Drake on Perspectives this week, who was I not wrong when I said what I said on the show, how he is just like, you talk to him and you're like, you were made for radio, dude. Like you were made, not because I think he's unattractive, but because his voice is so good for radio. Like it's just so good. And he's very good at presenting his information that way. Me, I am not a radio person. In fact, more people have said that my voice is annoying than not through the years. So I'm probably not even a podcast person, to be honest with you.
Holly, my wife, would make fun of me because she would come down whenever I was doing the midnight show back in the day for SiriusXM Fantasy. And there is like a different cadence that you use, hey, welcome to SiriusXM Fantasy Football, or, so doing that. And so sometimes even now she'll go, hey, I'm David Kitchen, I mean,
to this day, Avery, my daughter, comes up to me and she says, "What's up, everyone? It's JJ Zachary." Like she still does it to me to this day. Like she's just grown up literally with that cadence because I started the podcast about a year before she was born. So she does not know a life without her father being a podcaster.
Yeah. It is it's a tough situation when you're famous like you are, JJ. I get it. I get it.
That's definitely what I'm saying here.
Yeah, I know.
This is definitely
when you're everywhere, when your kid just turns on everything and they see you.
It's just funny. It's just funny because she's now in second grade. So she talks to her friends and I'm sure it comes up what your parents do, that kind of thing. Like they don't know what their jobs are. You don't know what your parents did whenever they were, but she just thinks it's normal for dads to have podcasts, which to be fair, in 2025, half of dads probably have podcasts anyway, so she's probably not that wrong.
This came up this week where one of my daughters said, "Dad, I was walking in with," she listed her friend's name, and she said, "What is exactly your dad does? Because you've never really been able to explain it."
Yeah.
And she goes, "So, Dad, what do I say?" And I was just like, "Say your dad is the COO of Late Round Media and tune in."
Yeah.
Late Round lateround.com. I don't know.
Lateround.com, baby. Just say go to lateround.com and they'll figure it all out.
That's right. All right. You can go to lateround.com and figure it out with the Patreon that we have. Come join our community. And here's the big push today. Need you to like the channel. Really need you to like the channel.
We are close.
We are like 80 people away from 10K.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this, please go like the channel and or subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, because it's an interactive show. You know, we get down and nerdy on the show. So Bogey said, who killed the QR? I need to bring the QR back for Patreon. We're no longer, for right now, we don't have a show sponsor. So that's why the QR code is gone. But maybe we just need to bring it back for just late round. Because
do we really need to? I'm not sure we need to.
Davis, I don't know if you listened to the Swolecast, but he said that he kind of got it.
I heard that. Yeah. So also for audio listeners, especially, because I think the people that watch live on YouTube, they know that, you do the Swolecast and all that kind of stuff. But right. Kitchen does the Swolecast, which is a DFS, typically like more DFS centric, but it's also sort of like living the stream, and that you guys go off topic and you talk about lots of random stuff.
If you're looking for information, it's not the show for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Davis Maddock recently had a child, and you guys were talking about the QR code stuff, and he said that's actually the QR code stuff is actually now his demographic, because he understands you don't have time to do whatever you need to do whenever you're holding a baby, feeding a baby, all that kind of stuff. And I never have liked Davis less than in that moment.
When he was talking about being a dad for the first time and needing to scan the QR code on the TV when he's watching it, holding his child, I get it.
I mean, the thing is, like, if you need a QR code to go to lateround.com, you can type in lateround.com just as easily as scanning a QR code if you have a baby in your hand.
Are you done?
Yeah, let's go. Let's move on.
Okay.
Today's fantasy news.
All right, let's talk about this Thursday night football game because I just want your honest reaction to how good the Texans defense looked and how bad the Bills offense looked.
I'm going to say this, okay? I had Josh Allen as a sell on 15 transactions this week, and it was a risky thing to throw out into the world, okay? It's the best quarterback in fantasy football.
Just scored like 50 points the other day.
Yes. And like, I understand the ceiling is absolutely there. It's just that at quarterback, it's just a naturally a little bit devalued position. And it is a little bit more predictable than other positions in that, like, Josh Allen was not the QB1 this week in rankings. He was like my QB 4 or 5 or something like that. Obviously, he's going to end up as like the QB 25 based on his performance last night. But regardless, it does make me feel better about that transaction from the standpoint of the core of the transaction was the week 15 and 16 or 16 and 17 games rather, where they're at Cleveland in week 16. They're at Cleveland. Like, that is not a great spot for Josh Allen. And I'm not saying it's going to go one way or like, we don't know for sure. I'm just saying logically, it's not a great spot for Josh Allen. Cleveland right now, they're the third best team by adjusted fantasy points allowed. And then championship week is in Buffalo, which Josh Allen will play better in Buffalo, but they get Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is playing out of their mind right now too, defensively. And so, and not only that, it's a colder environment, in Buffalo. Like, it's not necessarily as conducive for scoring. And so my thought, this is not a Josh Allen problem, to be fair. Like, when you're rolling out Tyrell Shavers and, Josh Palmer and, Khalil Shakir is a good slot guy, but he's not a number one. Like, he's not
Dawson Knox right now.
Yeah. Like, they don't have all of their dudes right now. / they don't have dudes, like I made the tweet. I sent a tweet out last night when Nate Yonke of PFF tweeted the snaps in the first half for the Bills wide receivers. And I quote tweeted and I said, the Buffalo Jets, because it literally looks like the New York Jets and how they, without Garrett Wilson, of course, right. And how they just have a bunch of guys on their team that are not studly. They're not great. And it's a really, I genuinely, I think any Bills fan right now is sitting there and they're like, why did we not give up a first round pick for Jalen Waddle? Like, why did we not do that? Now, on the flip side, Houston's defense is really good. We knew that it was really good. And it's the best defense in fantasy. They have some good matchups rest of season. Like, it's a defense that you can feel confident in pretty much every single week, especially after a performance like that. I've seen a lot of takes. We saw it in Discord last night of like, did CJ Stroud lose his job? Guys, Davis Mills was not good last night. Like they did nothing in the second half offensively last night. And a huge reason, in my opinion, that the run game can't get going in these spots is because they don't have to respect the pass game at all. Because Davis Mills is missing some relatively open throws. So it was good to see Woody Marks once again get sort of a really high snap share and a really good workload. Better games should happen for him, but it wasn't like he was complete dust last night from a fantasy perspective. Wasn't good. We needed like 4 or 5 more points for it to be more of like an average game, but he's at least getting the workload. Jaden Higgins, I thought, looked really good again. I think his second half breakout is definitely, I had him on 15 transactions this week. I think that second half breakout is really starting to come to fruition. Still haven't seen as much Jalen Noel as I've wanted, but Christian Kirk had a good game last night.
Yeah.
Like, he looked pretty decent last night. So, I thought that Buffalo really underperformed. They need to get James Cook more involved in the passing game still, in my opinion. And they have problems at wide receiver. And that's why we see what we're seeing with the Josh Allen and his production and the passing attack and all that sort of stuff.
There was a moment of silence in the Discord for Woody Marks when he went down, or it would just like when he was down looking at his knee. Just
Woody Marks has torn his Achilles 4 times this year, and
Woody, get up.
That happens all the time with him. Yeah,
get up, Woody, get up.
Yeah.
So he did. He came back in, but he looked decent.
Someone made the comment too, Bogey in chat, and it's a very valid one. Part of the problem with Woody Marks right now is that he's not getting enough looks through the air. Like that's the issue. And Marks, that's where I thought Marks is best in a role where he's like a 50-60% running back rush share player where Nick Chubb can complement him, and that's fine. But the value of Woody Marks is get him out in space on the outside, let him do his work as a receiver, because he's a really good receiver. That's literally his bread and butter. And that's why the Zap model actually liked him. In my opinion, it was overinflating him a little bit. But it's why the Zap model liked him, because he was a good pass catcher. Over the last couple, I think he had like one target last night or something. But he hasn't been that involved. His target shares recently before last night, so this wasn't even last night, but 2.5%, 6.8%, 7.7%. And the 2 weeks prior to that, he was over 10%. So he's been kind of on this like 4-week dry spell of not getting a lot of looks through the air. And that, to me, is going to be more important for his long-term value than what he can do on the ground.
Okay, going back to the comment that you made, I just need to say this. I actually laughed out loud last night when you said the Buffalo Jets, and Rondell12 said, JJ, please, right now, we're kind of going through it over here. Just like, it was just insult to injury.
There's a lot of fan bases that hate me right now. I'm sorry.
I thought
the Steelers fan base being number 1 on that list.
Your boys, your fans. Key off Coleman, though. What's going on with Keon Coleman?
Well, I'm just going to say not good as my reaction. I think that Coleman, he was a high variance draft pick this year. If you were drafting him in the double-digit rounds, we kind of knew that. He was a high variance prospect coming out. Not one that got a ton of separation. He was an early declare, but his production profile really was not elite coming out. Tons of question marks. Like, it could have gone, to me, the ceiling was there, but the floor was also there. And I think we're just seeing the floor outcome, which in those situations, like when we talk ceiling and floor with prospects, I think it's really important for people to remember that the floor is going to hit more often than the ceiling. We get way more. If you were to be and I've thought about this before, being an analyst who just hates on every single prospect, because you will be right more frequently if you just say, I don't like this player over and over and over again, because there are more failures than there are successes, because in fantasy football, like, our line of failure is higher than like what, like you could look at like Rashad Bateman right now, for instance, who I liked as a prospect. He had a good production profile and such, but clearly from a fantasy perspective has not lived up to his first round price tag at all from a draft capital standpoint. Right. But in the real NFL, in the actual NFL, he's had a decent enough career. You know, it's not like he's been amazing, but he's had a decent enough career where you could say, yeah, he wasn't like that big of a bust for like a later first round pick. It's not that big of a deal. It's not like Josh Doxson or anything like that, right? But in fantasy, we will group a Josh Doxson with a Rashad Bateman because neither of them are that relevant in fantasy in general. And so when we do get those like high variance profiles, it is really important to remember that the ceiling is not going to hit at a 50-50 rate, you know, versus the floor. The floor is going to hit way more often. And I think for Keon Coleman and some of those other guys that were drafted in that range, aside from Ladd McConkey, we're seeing more of that floor hit for those guys. I still think the jury's out on like Ricky Pearsall and, you know, Xavier Worthy. Obviously, Jalen Polk is dust. You know, Keon Coleman dust right now. I think there's one other that I'm missing that someone in chat will shout out from that area of the draft last year. But you know, it would be shocking if Keon Coleman all of a sudden becomes a very fantasy relevant player for us.
Yeah. Do you think it's performance based, or do you think it's like something
I think
else?
it's both. I think that he's not been good, and he's also not like he's had maturity. I mean, there was an interview with Kay Adams and Tyrell Shavers that I saw, just a clip, and Shavers was like, you know, Kay Adams was asking him about like his relationship with Keon Coleman and how to navigate that, because you know, it's a really weird, I mean, it was a great question to ask, and honestly one that a lot of journalists and interviewers wouldn't ask. But you know, he said that Tyrell Shavers said that Shavers is like the older brother in the relationship between the two, because Keon Coleman's really young. And then he used the word mature and the lack of maturity. He said, I'm more mature, is what he said about him versus Keon Coleman. So it's a combination of like when there's off the field issues with players, very rarely are those players like balling out on the field. You know, Antonio Brown situations are so interesting and crazy because dudes are doing stuff off the field and you're like, or Josh Gordon, right? Where like these guys are doing stuff off the field, but they're still balling out on the field. And you're like, how is that? You're just naturally unbelievable. I know Antonio Brown had like a crazy work ethic, but like Josh Gordon's a great example where like we've heard all these stories after the fact about what he was doing and how he was, you know, feeling in his brain during games and stuff. And he was still doing what he was doing. Those are the stories that are crazy. But most often when there's off the field stuff or like maturity stuff, it's going to be from players who just like aren't getting it done on the field. And Keon Coleman hasn't gotten it done on the field.
Okay. We just got some, I'm going to skip around from this sheet because we just got news. Patriots wide receiver Kayshon Boutte, his hamstring, and running back Ramondre Stevenson, his toe, are cleared to make their return from injury and are expected to play Sunday.
Yeah, so no surprise. I think that was all expected. I think the New England backfield is the biggest fantasy storyline right now this week. You know, I've said my piece. I think that Travion
talked about it on Perspectives.
Yeah, we talked about it on Perspectives. I talked about it on the 10 Trends episode. Every piece of data points to Travion Henderson being a more impactful player than Ramondre Stevenson. But guys, like, I can't sit here. Like, I can sit here and say I think Travion's better, but teams will do what they want to do. You know, there are other things that they see that I don't, and you know, they want to play their games and they want to run their offense a certain way. You know, that's just the way that it goes in fantasy. Running back is a little bit more difficult sometimes to wrap your head around. And then eventually, you know, sometimes your takes come to, you know, like I'm a big Sean Tucker guy. I even had him in the draft guide as a target because Rachaad White was hurt to start the year. And it takes a little bit of time sometimes for like the talent to just win out. And you got to cross your fingers that talent's winning out with Travion Henderson versus Ramondre Stevenson. I do think it's a 1A, 1B situation right now. If I were to project, I'd say Travion is like a 55 to 60% running back rush share player, Ramondre getting the rest of that. And then through the air, maybe Travion can be like that 10% target share guy. Their schedule's so good that both guys can be relevant in fantasy. You know, like that's been my takeaway with all of this, is that people want to bury one of these guys. I think both of them can be relevant because Ramondre could see some work close to the goal line. Travion can break a big play and he can get some more work as a receiver. Like they can work in tandem, and it is hypothetically like a decent tandem. And so I'm still bullish on both. Like oddly, I was kind of in line with the market with how I ranked Travion rest of season. And then I was 8 running back spots ahead of market with Ramondre earlier this week whenever I did my rest of season rankings. So, you know, I think that backfield is just an attractive one in general rest of season.
All right. Broad until week 13. So This is a question. Joe Burrow is officially questionable for Sunday, but JJ,
Yeah.
he wasn't stretching with the other quarterbacks today.
He was not stretching?
No, well, yeah, they were stretching on one side of the field, and he was not stretching, but he did have his helmet on.
I think he's playing.
You think so?
I do, because he's a competitor and he is, I joke about this, but it at least crossed my mind. Okay. It's crossed my mind, and it's probably crossed other people's minds too. So don't at me when I say this. He doesn't want any more weeks of the potential of him looking worse with a 40-year-old quarterback stepping in and at least being functional within this offense. Like, if you're Joe Burrow and you've been sitting out and you have these weapons and you have and Joe Flacco's come in, and not to say that he's been as good, because he hasn't. Joe Flacco is actually pretty bad last week, but Flacco comes in and he performs at the level that he's performed at, which is not bad. You don't think that is crossing Burrow's mind to be like, I got to get back on the field as soon as I can? Like, that it's at least, it's at least something that's driving him to want to push it a little bit. It's a little bit takey. It's a little bit radio of me, if you will.
Yeah, a little normie JJ.
A little normie JJ coming through.
I could come back against your normie take and say, well, wouldn't he want to wait until Jamar Chase is back fully? So but potentially. But what if Flacco were to come out and have a good game against a beatable secondary? So okay.
No, I mean, real talk though, I think that this is a situation where Burrow, when players just are healthier and feel good and they're competitive, they're gonna generally play. And Cincinnati's technically not out of it right now, so they're gonna probably throw him on the field and see what he can do.
Okay, Dart out.
Is that official?
I believe so. Yeah,
I didn't see that report.
Yeah, Dart is out.
Well, that's unfortunate. This is a true
breaking news to you. Ryan Dunleavy, it was posted in the the chat. He's not playing.
Yeah, well, Jameis Winston becomes a reasonable streamer this week, and it's a downgrade to the pass catchers there. I'll put downgrade to pass catchers is my reaction. But I think Dart will be back next week, which is good.
Okay. Get well soon, Bucky. Bucky Irving not going to play this week. He trending to play next week, apparently. So I will let you just weigh in on this Bucky Irving situation, which was a little bit odd, I guess, this week.
It was odd. I think that there was some. So, okay. What's going on with Bucky Irving, reportedly?
Right. Okay?
He had the foot injury, and everyone's like, oh, it's the foot. And then he's had the shoulder injury, and it's clearly been now someone said, okay, I'm just reading the chat to make sure, because the Jackson Dart stuff, people are kind of all over the place, it sounds like. But no, he's officially out. But with Bucky Irving, the shoulder injury has been keeping him out, right? But then it was reported, Mike Florio came out yesterday in a on his show with Chris Sims, and he made a comment about how, I don't have the quote, so this isn't verbatim, but it was something along the lines of, this is non-football related that's going on with Bucky Irving. And then he made a comment that, honestly, I think that he should be blasted for. And I don't say that very frequently about other analysts, about other reporters, because they're just trying to do their best. But this was really irresponsible, in my opinion, by him, where he said that they would talk about it after the show, him and Sims, right? So you're out there saying something and saying something very vague about Bucky Irving, right?
Yeah, where people can take all sorts of assumptions about what you're saying.
So people have taken that and gone in so many different directions about, and this is a human being. This is Bucky Irving's a person, and you're going out there and you're saying, oh, it could be, it's something that's non-football related. So then now everyone's on the internet being like, oh, Bucky Irving is betting on football, or, it's this or it's that. It sounds like what it does sound like, based on reporting from Bucks beat writers. So this is not from me. I've not talked to anybody, but it sounds like there's been some mental health related thing going on post injury. And I think that if that's the case, instead of being like, wow, that's insane, that's so silly, that's stupid, you have to understand that these guys are athletes and they're doing things at the highest possible level. And when something really frustrating like an injury happens like that, it could be when guys tear their ACLs, doctors and physical therapists talk all the time about how the recovery from that ACL is not simply the physical recovery. It's being able to come back and not be afraid to cut, on that. It's no different than any injury that you've gone through. If you're a runner, if you're a lifter, and then you go back to do that thing and you think to yourself, oh my gosh, I really hope this doesn't happen again. Take that, multiply it by about 1 million because it's this guy's livelihood, it's that important to this player and to this person. And so to me, it was really, it was just a really poor job of communicating that idea by Florio. I'm only saying about this situation, not Florio in general. It's just, I think that was handled really, really poorly. Fortunately, it sounds like Bucky Irving is going to be back next week. That's the way that Todd Bowles talked about it, how it's being reported. And so if Bucky is back next week, that means from our perspective, because we have to give this as fantasy spin because it's what we're doing here. From our perspective, that means that in week 13, there's going to be a little bit of a ramp up period for Bucky. Maybe we see that again in week 14. And then I'm hoping that means that once the fantasy playoffs hit, he's actually in a pretty good spot and they have a really good playoff schedule. They have a good schedule after this week, the Buccaneers running backs. So I'm excited for Bucky to get back on the field. I think he's one of the most fun running backs to watch. And I hope he gets well. I hope that things are good and that he, has things in check and he feels great about it because, we want to see him perform. And it's important to us as fans of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Want to see Bucky out there. Want to see all those guys out there. I'd like to see Sam Laporta out there too, but it reported that he had back surgery and is basically slim chance that he comes back this season. And that's, I wasn't expecting that. Were you expecting that?
He was on IR.
Yeah, but I thought he'd just come back.
Maybe, yeah. There was some speculation that it was a bad back injury, but admittedly, I don't have a ton of Sam Laporta, and I haven't checked it the same way that I've been.
Yeah, and you did have JMO.
Part of the thing with that is that when a dude goes on IR, from my process perspective, so you guys can kind of see how I think about this stuff. When a dude goes on IR, and I know he still has 3 weeks on IR, I don't need to really keep tabs on his situation until there's a report. Until we get closer to when he's coming back, and I can see. But he still had a few more weeks left. He's only been on IR for 1 week. So from my perspective, I'm I don't really have to plan ahead because I don't have that much Laporta. I'm not going to really dig into this right now because I don't need to. I'm not going to be talking about him on the podcast and stuff. But I am going to talk about him now because he's obviously out for the year. I think that this is a really big deal for the Lions offense just in general. But a lot of people are going to take what happened last week against Philadelphia and sort of translate it and think and use a little bit of too much correlation and causality with Sam Laporta being out and thinking that that's the reason why they struggled. I'm sure that played a role because he's good, but they're going to bounce back and they're probably going to bounce back this week. I would not be shocked if they put a 40 burger up against the Giants. This is very similar to what happened after week 1 against the Packers. So I'm, get well soon, Sammy.
Yeah.
My dynasty rosters will miss you.
Yeah.
But I do think that this could help Jameson Williams a little bit, even give Amon-Ra St. Brown a little bit more love. Brock Wright is like a low end tight end too now each week, but also low key, we might see a little bit more Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
Might see a little bit more of him through the because they ran more. It seemed like, at least I didn't dig into this, but it seemed like they ran more 2 running back sets this past week against Philadelphia.
Lowe's knows Sundays are for football, so tackle your home improvement projects by Saturday and earn your Sunday with great deals on LG and Bosch appliances, select Bounty and Swiffer cleaning products, and more. Then once your to-do list is done, get ready to kick back, relax, and enjoy the game. Shop in-store or online now and earn your Sunday with help from Lowe's, official partner of the NFL.
Oh man, it is back, and it's bigger and more fun than ever. Toyota is all in all season with another year of Toyota Game Day giveaways, giving football fans the chance to win big every week of the NFL season. How? Simply predict which big plays will happen during the second half of each Sunday night football game. That's it. If you want a new 2026 Toyota Sequoia, how about Brock Purdy's favorite Sequoia? It could be yours simply by playing Toyota Game Day giveaways. Plus, thousands of prizes are up for grabs, including tickets to any regular season NFL game next season, plus flights and accommodation, NFL shop gear, and more. Play for free across 22 weeks of action. Toyota is bringing the excitement as the official automotive partner of the NFL. Don't miss out. Visit toyota.com/NFL now to learn more. Toyota, let's go places. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Ends on 2/8/26. Open to legal residents of the 50 United States and DC, 18 and over. For complete details, how to enter prizes and official rules, visit toyotasgamedaygiveaways.com.
This week in the Late Round Discord, again, you can go to lateround.com to join the Patreon and join the Discord and hang out with us. Whenever the news broke about Trey Benson,
Yeah.
it was just, I was getting alerts, pings, JJ, get in here. And then you come in all caps, Travion Benson, let's go. Like, we just weren't expecting the timing of it. And so it was a pleasant surprise. Now, that being said, he did look good in practice. Gannon said, we'll see how he goes today, today being Friday. And then they did sign Jamar Jefferson to the active roster, Sincere McCormack to the practice squad. So not really sure what's going to happen this week.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to go this week, in my opinion. And honestly, we'll probably learn like 2 hours after the show is done whether he's going to be going or not. So if you're listening in the podcast feed, you're going to hear that. You're already going to know the answer to that. But the reason why I've been bullish on Trey Benson versus the market is simply because, again, we're thinking about the playoffs. Like we're in this phase right now in fantasy football where we have 6 weeks left in the season, right? If you make it to the championship. And so half the season is the fantasy playoffs. So you better be like, where your team stands right now. And so you can make moves and act, as I've talked about on 15 transactions over the last handful of weeks. You can act to plan ahead and be in a good position for when, those playoff weeks hit. And with Trey Benson, I had him as a buy last week I had him as a buy simply because he could come back soon. Number one, Arizona's running backs have not been special since he's been down. Like they've had this really weird rotation. There's been games where like Amari DiMercado is playing a certain early down role because an injury happened. I mean, it's just been like absolutely crazy in the way that they've deployed these guys. I think hopefully this week we have a little bit of a clearer way of discerning which role these guys are going to have, or like Bam Knight's more of that early down, we'll run some routes, and then Michael Carter more of the satellite back for them, and then boom, done. Hopefully we're good to go. Hopefully that's just it. But the reason Trey Benson has been so attractive to me is because in week 16, the Cardinals are at home against the Falcons. And the Falcons, I mean, they just seem like, I think Brian said it on Perspectives. It's like they've just given up, right? Like they're just like the defense is not playing as well as it did to start the year. The offense is horrible. They've just mostly given up. And then in week 17, they get Cincinnati. That's the best matchup on paper by adjusted fantasy points allowed. That game's in Cincinnati, but again, it's a better matchup of the two. So there's a very real chance. Like, would you be shocked if Trey Benson sees 65 to 70% of their running back rushes and a 10% target share rest of season when he's back? I mean, I wouldn't. That's what he was trending towards before he got hurt back in like week 4, whenever that was. So I think there's a chance that we see some good production, some good RB2 production from Trey Benson. And that gets me excited. And that is why the Discord was excited, because I had talked up Trey Benson before. And in these situations, like, we don't know when Bucky Irving's going to be back. We don't know when I almost said Travion Benson. We don't know when Trey Benson's going to be back. And
I think we keep that nickname.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like I have as much information as you guys do with injuries. I'm just going by like a game theory play. And that game theory play is, okay, he's probably going to be back. Let's put some odds to that. And then look at this situation, look at the schedule, and go from there.
Titans legend, Detroit legend, Jamar Jefferson, another JJ. So
he was a prospect favorite by many coming out.
Yeah. Okay. And Njoku, he didn't practice again this week. Yeah. So I'm guessing he's not going to play.
Yeah, I mean, usually. Wait, no, it says that.
He said no status for Njoku or Garrett today.
Yeah, he's back. So it's bad for Fannin is my reaction. I honestly just am scared to use anyone in the Browns offense this week, including Quinshon Judkins. I mean,
What about Shedeur Sanders and Superflex?
look, no, never. Shedeur Sanders had one of the worst. I don't care that he was coming in relief, and anything can happen. I mean, hopefully, like a week of practice will help him out. But man, he was horrific against Baltimore last week, and so good matchup on paper. But I think there's I mean, what's his line set for his passing yards this week? It's got to be under 150, right? Like it's got to be not very strong.
I don't know. 150 is really low, but probably around that. It's like Cam Ward-esque. Let's just
I mean, he's
yeah
in that I don't know if he's Cam Ward bad,
no.
But sorry, I'm just kidding.
Oh, JJ. Let's just get to the Titans, the poor Titans, because Calvin Ridley broke his fibula. Like one of the first plays back on the catch. And then you also have Io Manor struggling with a hamstring injury. It's like they're left with very, very little.
Yeah.
However, lots of people this week have been coming to the defense of Cam Ward. And maybe that's just some Titans copium on my part.
Yeah, it's Titans copium.
But I'm seeing one Jordan Tyson or Mekhi Lemon from USC. You know, one of these generational wide receivers coming in to save the day.
I mean, that's not going to happen. The odds of, I'm just playing probability here.
Yeah.
Okay. The odds that Cam Ward is him, and I'm going to give him the rest of the season, obviously, to improve on his numbers and stuff.
But
I'm just saying
he has just it could be like Drake May last year. You know, it just
Drake
has
May
like
had better numbers than Cam Ward last year.
Well, he had
with just as bad, if not worse, of a supporting cast. Okay. So I'm not. This is not. I don't think this is a Drake May situation. What I will say is, I never say never with quarterbacks anymore. Yeah. Like back
Sam
in the
Darnold.
Day, if you were to ask me this like 6 or 7 years ago, I'd probably be like, yeah. I mean, he's done. He's toast. You
Baker, Sam Darnold, Jared Goff, all those guys that we kind of
I mean, like we've seen bounce backs for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that it can still happen. I'm mostly giving you a hard time, but I also probability wise, it's not looking that good for Cam Ward long term. It's not looking great.
Rodgers is questionable. What do you think about the Steelers offense since you've already made the fan base mad?
I mean, I think that the offense is silly. You know, Arthur Smith with his 3 tight end rotation, with his comments about Kenneth Gainwell being just as, you know, interchangeable with Jaylen Warren as a third down back, you know, as a pass catching back. I get what the sentiment behind it, but if you watch Pittsburgh football, Jaylen Warren every single week is the most electric player on the football field for that Steelers offense. If you just watch those games. Now, obviously Kenneth Gainwell had a good game last week. It's against Cincinnati. I'm not going to like put too much stock into that, but I do think he played himself into another like kind of split backfield with Jaylen Warren a little bit banged up with his ankle. The problem with the Steelers is that Aaron Rodgers doesn't take shots down the field. He still has a really low ADOT. They don't have deep threats. They don't have weapons to be able to do that consistently. And DK Metcalf is just an overrated player in general. Like we've seen that now through years now where he's not, you know, you can sit there and say that he's like a good wide receiver. That's fine. But year after year after year, DK Metcalf is not reaching that 25% plus target share mark, and targets are earned. Target share is earned. You have to get open in order to see a target, right? And if DK Metcalf is hovering the 20% mark on a team with, or 22% mark on a team with Calvin Ridley as your wide receiver too, and, you know, Darnell Washington and Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith, like that's a problem, right? And you're not getting these splash plays because Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw the ball down the field. So it's kind of a messy situation right now. Not a terrible matchup this week though for them. We'll see what happens, and we'll see how healthy Rodgers is. But I think Rodgers is going to play based on, you know, how things have trended.
Okay, we got to move on. But the running back infirmary, got Jacobs. We already talked about Ramondre, Tootin, Warren. This is the season where you get just a bunch of banged up running backs, and you have to figure out who's playing and who's worth playing through the injury and who's worth the stash, basically.
Yeah, I mean, look, if Jacobs is out this week, he could still go. I wouldn't be surprised if he's just a true game time decision and not ruled out today. But if Jacobs, if he goes, obviously you're playing him. If he doesn't, I think Emmanuel Wilson's not a bad play. Ramondre Stevenson, already talked about that backfield earlier. Bashal Tutin, I loved what I saw last week. I think Tutin's just I think he's good, and I want to bet on talent. And I think that he has a decent receiving profile too. And then Jaylen Warren, just talked about him. We'll probably see more Kenneth Gainwell than we would like.
Okay, let's get on to today's data.
Today's data.
Apparently, did I say Calvin Ridley whenever I talked about the Steelers instead of Calvin Austin? That's my bad if I did. Just so that no one comes. I'm sure in that 2-minute span, someone on Spotify.
They're always going to comment, and then you're going to get to it, and they're going to have to underneath it say sorry.
Yeah, no, they'll delete it after I fix the error. All right, so this chart and today's data is every NFL team, and then it looks at their adjusted total attempts allowed and their adjusted pass rate allowed. Now, what this chart shows you when it comes to total attempts allowed, it shows you how many plays in rush and pass attempts a team runs against those defenses above or below expectations. So let's just take the Cincinnati Bengals, for instance. Okay. The teams against the Bengals are running 6.2 more plays per game when it comes to rush attempts and pass attempts. So not even plays, because I'm not accounting for sacks, right? And so the teams against the Bengals are running about 6 more plays per game than their season-long average. Teams against the Steelers are running 7.3 more plays per game, which is the highest in all of football. And then on the flip side, you get the Chargers. Teams are running 6.5 fewer plays against them, right? The one chart, though, that I think is the one column that's more interesting, in my opinion, is adjusted pass rate allowed. These are essentially the teams that are what we would describe as like pass funnels or run funnels. There's a lot of different ways to sort of determine whether a team is that. Some people might look at expected points and say that, they give up a lot of expected points through the air and not much on the ground, or just yards per attempt versus yards per carry, that kind of thing. What I'm doing here is this is not adjusted for game script, because that's important. Like, good teams, you will have a higher pass rate against. Like, that's an important thing to not adjust for in this kind of circumstance. And so with adjusted pass rate allowed, it's just looking at what is the pass rate that this team has faced this year versus what is the average pass rate that those teams have had outside of that game throughout the season, right? So in this case, I highlighted some teams like Jacksonville, teams that face Jacksonville. They throw the ball. They have a pass rate of almost 6% higher than what their season-long average is. Teams that face New Orleans on the flip side, this is kind of surprising. They not that surprising because they're a bad team. They run the ball a lot more typically. The Jets, they run the ball a lot more. The Buccaneers, partially because of personnel, but partially because of the team, they throw the ball a lot more against the Buccaneers. So you can kind of look at this and say, okay, my quarterback, like for instance, Matthew Stafford playing against Tampa Bay this week, we should expect a little bit more passing volume for the Rams than what we've seen in recent weeks, or at least throughout the season, based on the fact that they're playing Tampa Bay and based on what we've seen throughout the season.
Awesome. If if you have Stafford and Devontae Adams, you just know that he's going to get one of those passes inside the 5-yard line.
Oh, he's going to jump ball for sure. The other thing too is that this data I do post on Discord. Part of I do like a little matchup cheat sheet on Discord that I post every Tuesday. So this is part of that cheat sheet.
There you go. I like a little nugget, little teaser.
Yeah.
All right.
The late round main event.
All right, let's get to players that you like more. The consensus this week, starting with Sam Darnold against the Tennessee Titans.
I don't really have a guy. I mean, it's only 2 spots different.
Yeah.
I'm pretty chalky at quarterback this week for the most part. I am nervous about the lack of volume for Darnold. Seattle, though, has a 26.5 point implied team total. Tennessee's an average matchup for quarterbacks by adjusted points allowed. I said this on the show, but if Seattle gets 3 or 4 touchdowns, just probability wise, 2 of them would likely be passing. And if you get 2 touchdowns through the air, that's usually a QB, like a mid to high QB2 performance.
Okay. And then we got our boy, Low Key, a great player to draft is what you said when you drafted him the Kings Classic team to me via DM. or text message Javonte Williams.
Yeah, I needed, there were spots where I did get Javonte this year.
Yeah.
I have him at RB12 this week. Consensus has him at RB15. I clearly like the Cowboys more than consensus based on the next guy we're going to talk about. But the problem with Javonte, he's not getting it done that much as a pass catcher over the last few weeks, but his route shares haven't changed. I always talk about this, how when you look at a box score and you see how a running back or a wide receiver is performing from just raw data perspective, targets, receptions, yards, you then look at target share and see what the intent is in targeting that player. And then from there, you look at route share to see if they were even running routes. So if a guy has a 20% route share, that's not very high at running back. A 50% route share is pretty good at running back. And so if he has a consistent route share, that means more targets should be funneled his way eventually. And that's what we've seen with Javonte Williams. He's had route shares of 55%, 67%, and 53% over his last three. His target shares, though, over that time have been below 6% in every game. That should regress a little bit and help his floor out a little bit. Not only that, the Cowboys, yes, a tough matchup. Philadelphia's defense is playing well. The Cowboys at home this year played 4 games, and 3 of those 4 games, they've scored 40 points. Like that, we know that their games typically go over. We know that they're typically higher scoring outings. And so I am a little bit bullish about what we could see from the Dallas offense versus what expectation says this week.
Okay, let's stay on the same team. Someone that had a little too much fun last weekend, but also gave his fantasy manager some fun and some comeback stories. George Pickens.
Yeah, so Pickens, I have him at wide receiver 9.
Yeah.
Consensus has him at wide receiver 14. Philadelphia, they're 5th in adjusted target share allowed to wide receivers, which means that when teams face Philly, they're targeting their wide receivers at a higher rate than they typically do. They've been average against perimeter wide receivers this year in fantasy points allowed when they've been better against slot receivers. They've been pretty good against slot receivers this year. Since week 1, Pickens has fallen below 9 targets only 1 time. Only 2 times. So he's seeing very consistent volume in this offense. Even with CeeDee Lamb back, he has a 26% target share. So I just think, this is a game where they could trail too and see more pass attempts, and they're not going to be afraid to throw the ball a lot. So I just think Pickens is a pretty safe option, and clearly I like him more than where consensus has him.
All right, this one, I'm not sure if your ranking will change because it was based on Jackson Dart starting. It's Theo Johnson.
Yep, and obviously I didn't realize that Dart was officially out because it happened right before we started doing the show. I do have Theo Johnson here. If it were Dart, I would feel a little bit better about his target share going up, but he did still have an 84% route share last week. He's clearly their tight end 1. It's mostly a mid matchup. We should see a little bit more passing volume from the Giants, but we'll see. I mean, I would feel better about Theo Johnson if Jackson Dart were playing.
Lowe's knows Sundays are for football, so tackle your home improvement projects by Saturday and earn your Sunday with great deals on LG and Bosch appliances, select Bounty and Swiffer cleaning products, and more. Then once your to-do list is done, get ready to kick back, relax, and enjoy the game. Shop in-store or online now and earn your Sunday with help from Lowe's, official partner of the NFL.
Oh man, it is back, and it's bigger and more fun than ever. Toyota is all in all season with another year of Toyota Game Day giveaways, giving football fans the chance to win big every week of the NFL season. How? Simply predict which big plays will happen during the second half of each Sunday night football game. That's it. If you want a new 2026 Toyota Sequoia, how about Brock Purdy's favorite Sequoia? It could be yours simply by playing Toyota Game Day giveaways. Plus, thousands of prizes are up for grabs, including tickets to any regular season NFL game next season, plus flights and accommodation, NFL shop gear, and more. Play for free across 22 weeks of action. Toyota is bringing the excitement as the official automotive partner of the NFL. Don't miss out. Visit toyota.com/NFL now to learn more. Toyota, let's go places. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Ends on 2/8/26. Open to legal residents of the 50 United States and DC, 18 and over. For complete details, how to enter prizes and official rules, visit toyotasgamedaygiveaways.com.
Okay, let's get on to the bold predictions. And I just want to highlight this just so we can clarify this. There will not be. But Midler says, even though you don't advise on using your takes for gambling, I parlayed all of your bold predictions last week and it hit. Does this mean it's time for JJ's gambling pick segment?
No, I'm never going to be a betting tout. It's not going to happen. You guys are free to use whatever information you want to use to bet or do whatever you want. Go to DraftKings and do your thing. And I still, I do it because it's fun and entertaining. But I'm not looking at this from a book perspective and a line perspective. I am simply saying this is how I feel about these players, and you can use it or not use it, do whatever you wish. But yeah. Last week was JMO. What was it? JMO top 12?
Top 12 and Trey Tucker top 20.
Yeah. So both of those ended up happening.
Yeah. And both those guys scored touchdowns.
Yeah.
In primetime segments.
The
bold prediction.
One of those touchdowns buried me in a league by Trey Tucker.
I know, because it's like, yes, the bold prediction hit. And you're like, I just lost.
Yeah. Very frustrating.
Yeah, it's tough scenes. Michael Wilson does it again. That's your first bold prediction.
Yeah, and when I say does it again, I don't mean he's going to have 18 targets in 15 receptions. I just mean that
14 catches.
Yeah, I think it's another big game for Michael Wilson. Jacksonville has been way worse at defending perimeter receivers than slot receivers this year. They've been bad against tight ends, though. So I do think it's a big Trey McBride week. But when you look at this, you can go back to today's data and see that Jacksonville is a team that is a pass funnel, if you will. Teams are throwing the ball a lot more against them, and they'll throw the ball a lot more to the outside and those outside receivers. 32% target share for Michael Wilson last week. Like, if it weren't a good spot for Michael Wilson, I wouldn't be bullish on Michael Wilson. But no Marvin Harrison Jr. We saw that 32% target share. I don't see why it can't be a 25% target share again this week. And if that happens, I could see a scenario where he's like 8 for 90 and a touchdown or something like that. So when I say he does it again, I mean that we could see very, very good production from Michael Wilson once again.
Way to hedge your bets by
I mean, that's
he
pretty
won't
vague.
go 14 for 185 or whatever he did.
Look, if he's 8 for what would I say? 8 for 90?
Yeah.
8 for 90 and 1.
Okay. That's that. I mean, that would definitely get there over 20.
That's my bold prediction.
PPR.
He goes 8 for 90 and 1.
Over 20 PPR points. That's JJ's prediction. I will say on last week, the look ahead waiver wire, Wilson was on there. Brissett was on there. A few other guys on there. So
Luther Burden.
Hopefully people listened there and they didn't have to.
Sean Tucker, I think, was on there.
Spend out. Yeah, Sean Tucker was on there.
Yeah.
Okay. You got Rashee Rice, overall wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I'm going to say Rice is the wide receiver 1 this week. The Chiefs need to get him going a little bit more. He only had a 20% target share last week. This is a bounce back spot for this offense. He plays about half of his snaps out of the slot. The Colts are well below average at stopping slot receivers this year. It's also the third best matchup for wide receivers by adjusted points allowed. So I think the Chiefs could just get it done this week. It's a pretty good matchup. And Rashee Rice would be the one who benefits most.
All right. So let's get to the look ahead waiver wire. You've got a bunch of people on here, JJ.
Yeah, I even put. Look, I'm growing too. I even put their percent rostered numbers right now. Like I'm giving people more visual.
I thought you were going to say I even put Shamari DK on this list. That's what I thought you were going to say.
CJ Stroud, they get Indianapolis next week, and he is 37% rostered, so he would be like sort of the go-to kind of streamer. There's not very obvious ones at this point. Make sure you're looking at your handcuffs, right? Some of those guys would include these are kind of like handcuff pluses right now, where you get Sean Tucker, who's just getting more work. Although I'm still a little bit nervous about his matchup this week. Bashal Tutin, who, we don't know I'm assuming Travis Etienne's going to go, but he did pop up yesterday with a shoulder injury. Bam Knight, I think, is going to have one last ride this week. So you could add him right now. Maybe you don't need to stash him for next week, but if you need a player, Chris Rodriguez, they're on bye right now, but he's getting more work as the lead back in that backfield. A wide receiver, Chris Godwin, he's at 53%. Sounds like he's going to go this week. He'll be back. Kayshon Boutte, great matchup against Cincinnati. I love him as a sleeper, 36% roster. Jaden Higgins, we saw last night. He's getting more and more involved in the offense. Luther Burden, speaking of getting more and more involved in the offense, he's got by far the best per route run numbers on that team. I just think Luther Burden could be special.
It's like Travion. They can't keep ignoring him.
You can't. Yeah, right. He is good. Like Luther Burden's good. And am I biased a little bit because his app model loved him? Maybe. But I think he's also really good. And we're seeing that. Chimere DK, another player the Zap model didn't really mind. He's 10% rostered right now. You got Calvin Ridley out for the year. Alec Iamaner's banged up. Adonai Mitchell and Mason Taylor. I'm throwing those guys out there because what if Tyrod Taylor just looks a lot better and more competent throwing the ball than Justin Fields did? And I think Adonai Mitchell would have the highest ceiling of the wide receivers in that room. Darren Waller needs to be rostered in more than 20% of leagues. I think he could easily be back next week. They have a really good schedule down the stretch. I think they play Pittsburgh and Cincinnati at one point. Those are two really good tight end matchups. And he was doing well before he got hurt earlier this year. So keep an eye on Darren Waller. Brenton Strange could be back this week. I don't have the official word on that, but he was, a reasonable player, tight end streamer and such for Jacksonville. And then Terrence Ferguson, another guy the Zap model really loved. Ferguson is rostered in 0% of leagues, so less than 1% of leagues right now. He, with Tyler Higbee out, I'm just saying, I know they have Davis Allen and Colby Parkinson and obviously Terrence Ferguson, and they'll run a lot of, but they're running a lot more 13 personnel. And of those three, Ferguson's the one that can really get vertical and do a lot more down the field. And honestly, give them, from a football perspective, give them almost like an 11 personnel look in a way, because he's like more of that pass catching type player, right? I'm not going to say he's a wide receiver because he's not, but you can get sort of those 11 personnel looks, but with more tight ends on the field. And that's a really big advantage for that Rams offense. So maybe they get creative and more creative with Terrence Ferguson down the stretch. So I think he's an interesting stash in deeper leagues. And then at defense, the Chargers get the Raiders next week. They're 42% rostered. The Bucks get the Cardinals. They're 22%. The Bucks have a really good rest of season schedule after this week, like I've been saying. So you could honestly stash the Bucks and use them almost every week. And then the Dolphins get the Saints. The Dolphins, their defense is playing a little bit better and they're coming off a bye. So that's more so the reason why I would lean that way as a really, lower rostered option at defense.
Yeah. How owned is the 49ers defense?
Because they get Carolina this week.
They get Cleveland next week.
Right. Yeah. 49. I think though, because they're playing Carolina this week, that they had a decent.
I picked them up last week. I think they might have been.
Oh no, they're at 20. They're at 22%. So we could let's add San Francisco to this list. We'll add the 49ers because, they get the Browns next week.
It's my first look ahead waiver wire ad that I've contributed to.
Yeah, I thought that they were rostered in more. So we'll say versus Browns 22%. There we go.
All grown up. All right. Yeah, there's some of these options. Again, it's these running backs. Like someone on this list, JJ, is going to win someone a league.
I'll say this. Do you know how exciting it makes, or how good it makes me feel that we're in week 12 and we're talking look ahead waivers and we're throwing out Sean Tucker, Bashaw Tutin, and Luther Burden. Those are my Staples. Trinity of players, guys that I just like as players. Right. And so it's exciting. I get excited whenever players that I prospected and saw them through, that journey of getting drafted. And now we're seeing them on the football field at the NFL level and they're showing out more and doing more. It's exciting. It's a really fun time.
All right, let's get to the quad box. We are looking at 4 games that we are looking forward to watching this week.
Okay. And you going first?
I will go first, and I will go the obvious of Colts and Chiefs. Must
that's
win.
The obvious to you?
Yeah.
I don't think that's the obvious to me. I have another one that's more obvious.
If the Colts beat the Chiefs are likely out of the playoffs.
Yeah, it is. Okay. From a real football. Okay. All right. Well, I'll give you that. Colts Chiefs.
You just mentioned Rashee Rice, wide receiver 1, and you don't want to watch him go off in this game?
Okay. You got Colts Chiefs. I got Bucks Rams. But there's one more that I could have gone.
Colts at Chiefs. You got Bucks versus Rams. Okay. That's a Sunday night game. So you got the primetime game there. You probably want Steelers and Bears.
I love that you have Central Time in here. 7:20 and 12.
You know what? You know what it was? Is I was last week. There was an issue with the totals not being right.
Yeah.
So I just copied my ESPN page to make sure that it was correct.
Yeah. Sure.
And it was in Central Time.
Yeah, I got you.
A noon kickoff is amazing. All right. That being said, I will go with Eagles and Cowboys.
Yeah, I think that was the other one. And then now we're in this position where like there's not. I'll go for the last one. I'm gonna go because of the fantasy implications. Do you know what I'm gonna go here? I'm gonna go Patriots Bengals.
I almost joked that you were going to choose this game as a joke.
Why is a joke?
Because it's kind of like a gross game. But I do think that
It's not that. I mean, it's got a 51.5 total.
I think Flacco's going to play though.
Yeah, he might. I mean, I could be very wrong about the Burrow stuff.
But this is from Rap Sheet saying, judging from the comments from the Bengals coach Zach Taylor and the caution that he expressed, it feels like the pendulum has swung back to Joe Flacco. So that's just Rap Sheet. That's basically just Rap Sheet's opinion of
right. His vibes based take.
What he heard. All right, and Io Manor is officially out this week. I just got that notification.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes Chimere DK sort of a sleeper, but also a guy that you want to have stashed.
Patriots and Bengals. There were some good like Patriots Bengals games back in the day.
I think that the Corey Dillon Bowl will be a good game.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that will do it for the show. Again, we need people to subscribe to the Late Round Fantasy Football channel. And if you do that, it will help us get to 10K subs.
When we get to 10K, let's do a giveaway. And once we get to 10K, we'll get a random subscriber.
$10,000 giveaway.
Yeah. We'll give a don't say that stuff on air when I'm
kidding.
A lawyer involved now. That's
I'm kidding. I am kidding.
We'll do some swag giveaway.
Yes.
By the way, we have a shop. If you go to lateround.com/shop or just click shop at the top of lateround.com,
you can get your East Coast Dads hats as well.
Yeah, you can get East Coast Dad stuff. Not hats. Are there hats
or
on there?
shirts?
Yeah.
I think there is a hat. Is there not a hat?
Mm-mm. And then no, but I have a late round hat that doesn't fit my head because my head is giant.
Okay.
So yeah, I would check out the shop because we got cool shirts and hoodies, and I've tested all of the shirts out. And Kitchen doesn't like it because I like thicker shirts.
Yeah.
Kitchen's like a thin shirt guy. I like thick shirts.
I'm a soft shirt. This is a Vuori.
Thick. It's soft. Don't say it's not soft. It's soft.
Is it?
What do you mean it's not?
This is like a Vuori. Like, I mean, this is probably the nicest T-shirt I own, but it is soft, like a heathery soft. You like the heavy T-shirts?
Yeah, I like heavy T-shirts.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I wouldn't call them soft.
I mean, all T-shirts are soft.
Now you're getting into technicalities. Yes, no, it's not made of plastic. It's made of cotton. It's just like heavy cotton. You know, there's none of the soft.
I wear Dickies tees all the time because they're a little bit heavier. They're thicker.
I think those are probably in style.
Makes you feel like you're not shirtless all the time.
Okay. All right. People, I just wanted to clarify. I was joking about the $10,000. If we ever get to the point where we give away $10,000 on a giveaway, you will have known that we have made it. You know, it's like Rogan style.
I mean, Rogan doesn't even do that.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, we're not giving away $10,000.
Apple listed out their top podcasts, and we were not one of them. If we ever get on the like.
Okay, fine. We'll say that if the Late Round podcast is ever in like the top 50 on one of Apple's releases, I'll give away $10,000. Deal. Not fantasy podcasts, overall podcasts on Earth. If we're top 50 ever, I'll give away. Sure, I'll give away.
Yeah, we have to be the top 50. It can't be like
$20,000. I'll give away $20,000 if that happens.
Yeah, it can't be like you might also like if you see it on,
No. I'm saying like a a legit publication putting together the top podcast. If we make that, then yes, I'll give 20 grand away.
Okay. We're being silly. Listen, you're getting a little bit of a taste of what happens also in the Discord. So come hang out with us if you want those Travion Benson moments with us, or last night when we're all hoping for a Woody Marks touchdown. Whenever one of the late round staples scores, it's a fun time to be in there, even if you don't have them on your team. So JJ, any final thoughts?
Yeah, whenever a non-late round guy scores, like a Zay Flowers or something. Oh wait, he doesn't score touchdowns. Okay, we're good.
Oh,
just kidding.
Zing.
Just kidding, guys.
Yeah, no, I think you just guaranteed him 2 touchdowns. So
I had him as a fade, sure, but then I had him as a buy whenever Lamar was coming back, and that's not looking good. So I do think I think better days are ahead for Zay.
Okay. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. And again, we have the mailbag today. We also have the Perspectives episode with Brian Drake. Good episode. You got some Travion talk on there. I like the Syracuse talk too. That was fun. He is such a media guy. So
he is, yeah, everything Syracuse is like communications and radio and media. Yeah.
So appreciate everyone for tuning in, and we love you guys, and we'll see you next time here on the Late Round Fantasy Football Show.
Get almost anything you need delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a well-groomed lawn delivered, but you can get chicken parmesan delivered. A little escape? No. A delicious bowl of grapes? Yes, that. An afternoon stroll? Sorry, no. A burrito bowl? Happily, yes. A day of sunshine? No. A box of fine wines? Yes. Uber Eats can definitely get you that. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
This is Julian Edelman from Games with Names. As a fellow dude, do you ever get that not so fresh feeling in your butt? That's because you're probably using the dry stuff to wipe. Wet, extra large, flushable dude wipes get what toilet paper leaves behind in your behind. You wouldn't clean the tail end of your truck with dry paper towels. So why would you wipe with dry toilet paper? Wetter just cleans better. There are no more dingleberries, no more itch and irritation, just a deep, down the seam, confident clean. So don't fumble the ball with toilet paper. Stop being an a-hole to your b-hole. Drop the toilet paper. Available on Amazon and major retailers nationwide. Dude Wipes, best clean, pants down.
This is an iHeart podcast.